get started. Hello everyone. Thank you guys for coming in here as opposed to the King Kong vs. Godzilla anniversary panel. We greatly appreciate that. I am Davis Badol, also known as Titan Goji on YouTube. Some people refer to me as the Attack on Titan guy of the Godzilla fandom.
I am SteamedIguana. I also have a YouTube channel by the same name where I do, I guess, like kaiju VTuber stuff. My model is of the Gridman from the new anime series, and I also am an artist, and I actually did the art for the poster of this panel, so you can see those up around. That was me.
And I am Sentinel Prime Shin. I also have a YouTube channel of the same name. I mostly talk about stuff like mecha and Transformers and kaiju and just general like larger than life ideas and stuff like that. So, and I'm a huge Attack on Titan fan, so I'm super happy to be here.
And with that being said, who here watches Attack on Titan?
Yeah! Let's go!
Right. That being said, let's get started. Just a quick heads up: there will be potential spoilers discussed through the panel. We'll do our best to keep them at a minimum, and whatever spoilers that may be discussed are going to be anime-only spoilers. So if you haven't read the manga and you don't know the ending, no need to worry. We are not talking about the ending. But for those who aren't quite sure what this is, or probably stumbled up on this panel just out of like sheer curiosity, what exactly is Attack on Titan? Well, it is a manga created by Hajime Isayama about mankind being at war against giant man-eating monsters called Titans. This series has sold over 100 million copies as of 2019, and probably a lot more since then. And the anime was also listed as one of the most highly demanded TV series as of 2021, especially with all the stuff going on. Attack on Titan seemed to resonate with a lot of people for more than a decade, so it is a pretty big deal.
Alright, so before we actually get into the series proper, why don't we talk about the man himself who created it, Hajime Isayama. He was born on August 29, 1986 in Oita Prefecture, and he has made work before Attack on Titan, but it is the only long-running serialized series that he has made so far.
Now, as for his early life, Isayama grew up in Oyama, and I'm probably going to butcher this next name. He attended the Oita Prefectural Hitarinko High School.
You got it.
I got it, yes. All right, and throughout his youth, Isayama had great ambitions of becoming a cartoon, just like somebody else on this panel, but occasionally experienced feelings of anger and loneliness, like I'm sure we all did during that time.
Right.
Yeah. These feelings would later go on to inspire the creation of Attack on Titan.
Oh yeah, and going to what you said earlier, I'm sure a good number of us here, while we were growing up, we did have those same feelings, where we pretty much felt powerless, like we wanted things to be in our control, we wanted things to be in our way, and it's also worth noting that where Isayama grew up, it was surrounded by mountains, as you can see in that photo there, and if you've watched or read the series, you may recognize how that dam does look pretty similar to the walls in that series. But let's go over some inspirations for Isayama. First things first, Isayama loves movies. In fact, he grew up watching kaiju films and admits to drawing his own at a very young age. I wish he posted those online, otherwise I showed them off. But yeah, some of his favorites growing up were War of the Gargantuas, Godzilla vs. Biollante, and even Gamera. He's also mentioned other films like Mothra. So Isayama's a huge kaiju guy, and he studied writing and production through the films of Quentin Tarantino and Steven Spielberg, with films like Jurassic Park, Pulp Fiction, Saving Private Ryan. I mean, good on him. It's a lot cheaper than actually paying for film school. And he also has a blog where he updates his favorite movies each year. Back in 2013, he rated Pacific Rim as, I believe, his 5th favorite movie of 2013, and Shin Godzilla was even in his favorites of 2016.
I was gonna say, if you look at this list, especially with something like War of the Gargantuas, it will become blatantly obvious later. This is like almost a spiritual successor to something like War of the Gargantuas.
Absolutely.
Very much so. Now, when it comes to inspirations in terms of anime and manga, he was drawn to stories with a huge amount of world building, which if you've read Attack on Titan, you know that makes sense because Attack on Titan is very lore heavy. Now, in particular, he said that JoJo's Bizarre Adventure by Hirohiko Araki was one of his most influential pieces for his work.
Good taste.
Very good taste. While the tone and setting and characters of Attack on Titan are considered to be akin to Kentaro Miura's Berserk, Hayao Miyazaki's Natsuko of the Valley of the Wind, and Hideaki Anno's Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Again, that's really good taste.
Just great taste all around.
Now, you guys might not believe this, but Isayama is also a bit of a gamer. The way that Isayama depicts action was influenced by Mega Man Legends, and he admits to ripping off the game Muv Love Alternative.
And on top of that, here is an illustration of one of the mechs from Muv Love fighting a Titan with a whole apology written next to it. Starting with, I must confess here that I ripped off Muv Love Alternative to create Attack on Titan. I'm truly sorry, it was one of my biggest influences. I'm sure some of us, is open to admitting that we may or may not have ripped something off in the past. Hideaki Anno was very open about his, his love for Ultraman to the point where Evangelion is basically Ultraman.
Oh, 100%. It's like, I'm sure at some point in time we've all seen some part of a story and it's been like, this will fit like perfectly into my story. Just a puzzle piece.
I'll just take that.
Now, one of the biggest, probably the biggest influence for Isayama was his love for mixed martial arts, which sparked when he watched Antonio Rodriguez Nogueira versus Bob Sapp in 2002. He even went as far as to incorporate mixed martial arts into the action scenes of Attack on Titan, which we'll go into later. And he would even go on to base certain characters off of real mixed martial artists. See, there's an image of that fight that he watched back in 2002. And on the bottom is Isayama with Demetrius Johnson, who is actually a huge fan of the series.
And one more step before we actually get into Attack on Titan proper, we'll talk about Isayama's early career. He studied art at the Kyushu Designer Gakuen in Fukuoka after high school. And he moved to Tokyo to become a mangaka after he graduated, where he published some sci-fi military one-shots like Heartbreak 1 and Ors, though those were met with negative to mixed reception.
To give you an idea, Ors actually got an award for having terrible art.
I don't even know why that's a thing. That just like exists to make them feel bad.
Yeah,
Like the Razzies.
Boy, they're gonna feel sorry in the next few years.
Yeah, I know it's in Japanese, but it even says it on those Ors pages there.
But eventually, Isayama would get his big break with Attack on Titan, the 2006 one-shot or Chapter 0. It is basically a prototype of the Attack on Titan that we have now. It's set 100 years into the future, where Titans roam the Earth after a military experiment has gone awry. And this was met with a lot of positivity, praise, and encouragement for Isayama to create a full series.
Speaking of which, Attack on Titan eventually got its own full series, published from 2009 to 2021, my mistake, published in Misatsu Shonen Magazine by Kodansha Comics for 139 chapters. Isayama basically kept chipping away, committed full time to this manga for 12 years, hardly took any breaks, and wow, phenomenal work, honestly. This story basically reworked the original concept to an alternate history war drama, with some kaiju battles sprinkled in there. And it was actually the winner of the Kodansha Manga Award in Japan, the Attilio, not quite sure how to pronounce that, award in Italy, and the Harvey Award in America.
And then, of course, the anime. Probably the big reason a lot of people got into Attack on Titan. It's the 4 seasons, but really 7 because seasons 3 and 4 were separated into multiple parts. And the final part of season 4, the final season, will be releasing sometime next year in 2023. Now, seasons 1 through 3 were animated by WIT Studio with Tetsuo Araki of Death Note fame directing, while season 4 was animated by MAPPA with Yuichiro Hayashi of Inuyasha and Garden Animation directing instead. And I guess it's a good thing that this is the version of Attack on Titan that ended up getting it so popular in the West as well as in Japan, because Isayama himself does consider it to be the definitive version of the story.
Now that we know all about the anime, all about the manga, it's time to get into the main characters, which I'm sure if you guys have seen the show, you know them. Starting off with Eren Yeager. He's the main protagonist who seeks revenge for killing the Titans, or for getting revenge on the Titans for killing his mother, sorry. He also possesses the ability to transform into a Titan. And then there's Mikasa Ackerman, probably my personal favorite character. He's the adoptive sister of Eren after he saved her at a young age. She is a strong warrior who devotes her life to protecting Eren. And then Armin Arlert. He is a childhood friend of Eren and Mikasa who lacks in strength, but is a proven, courageous intellect and strategist.
And one of the reasons why a lot of people resonate with Attack on Titan is thanks to its massive cast of characters. I mean, you have characters like Jean, who's essentially like a rival to Eren, kind of like those 2 main characters in Godzilla Violent Wars. I can't help but think of that every time I see it.
Oh my god, you're right.
Yeah.
I never thought about that.
Yeah. You also have Sasha. Everyone loves Sasha. Everyone's favorite potato girl, and of course the GOAT, Erwin Smith, and obviously Levi. I mean, everyone loves Levi as well. Anji's one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
And yes, this is a massive cast of characters. My favorite character is Reiner. Not about y'all.
He's also Isayama's favorite character.
Yep.
But let's talk about the big kaiju of the story, the Titans. So they're the main antagonists of the story, and they come in like multiple different variants. You have like the normal, like slow, mumbling, zombie-like Titans. You have like the crazed, abnormal Titans that are harder to predict, crawling Titans, and they, as a whole, embody mankind's destructive power evoked, which is evoked by their uncanny humoring features, because so many of the Titans have like enormous heads and big bulging noses. And their carnivorous nature was actually directly inspired by the Gauss birds from Gamera Guardian of the Universe, which, for those of you who remember the Gauss in that movie, yeah, it's very clear to see the resemblance.
I was gonna say, I never really realized that before I got on this panel, started working with these guys, but it makes so much sense now that I do know. I was like, that is 100% just like the Gauss, except there's humanoids.
Oh yeah.
Now, as for the rest of the Titans, we have the Attack Titan. This is the one that Eren transforms into, and by instinct, fights for the freedom of mankind. It was designed after fighters Yushin Okami and Akio Nishiro. Then there is the Colossal Titan. This is basically the poster boy of the series. If you Google Attack on Titan, that's probably going to be the first thing you see. It gets its name from its tremendous size, standing at about 60 meters tall. So around the scale of the original Showa Godzilla, maybe a little bit bigger, I think.
A little bit,
Yeah, a little bit bigger. And he is nicknamed as a god of destruction. Then we have the Armored Titan.
My favorite.
He is covered in armored plating, making it nearly indestructible. And he was designed after Brock Lesnar. And then we have the Founding Titan, the first and original Titan. This is the Titan that triggered all the events in the series. It has its power split into 9 separate Titans. And if you just look at these Titans here, it is clear to see that this is just like World Gargantuous. Like, they're just gargantuous.
Oh yeah. I mean, I love the different designs of the Jaw Titan. I mean, I just think they just look super cool.
And like you were saying a couple days ago, the Beast Titan is just King Kong.
Pretty much, yeah.
And the Warhammer Titan just looks like an Ultraman monster of some kind.
It does. I remember when I first saw the Warhammer Titan come on screen, I was just like, that looks like a design straight out of like a Toku show. And I loved it. I love the design of the Warhammer Titan.
And also love how the car Titan is utilized in the series. I mean, basically, either carrying cargo or weapons, like this massive cannon that it has on its back.
As an artist, I love the variety of designs that we get, while still sticking to like the same kind of design language of these massive kind of humanoid creatures.
Oh, for sure. And now we have the best Titan, the most beautiful creation in all of fiction, known in the community as the gluttonous Titan, but is affectionately nicknamed Peanut by Attack on Titan live-action director Shinji Higuchi. He briefly appears across all Attack on Titan media, and in the live-action films, he is portrayed by film director Nobuo Iguchi, who y'all may know as the director of the film Machine Girl, if y'all heard of that. And also, oh shoot, name slipped at me, but you did do like this on that Mecha movie. I had it in my head, but I forgot it.
All the men happens with Saul.
Yeah.
It's hard to remember when you're thinking about peanuts sometimes.
Absolutely.
Look at that face.
So beautiful.
We love him.
But now, getting into the story proper with season 1 of the anime. It begins with all of humanity living behind 3 large concentric walls to ward off the Titans. That is until 100 years later, when the Colossal and Arbor Titans appear and breach Wall Maria, the first of the 3 walls. And it's in the aftermath that Eren Yeager ends up joining the Titan hunting scout regiment and pledges to exterminate them all in revenge for his mother, who was eaten by one right in front of him.
Yeah, I remember when season 1 came out, everyone was talking about it. Back when I was unfamiliar with Attack on Titan, it was hard to go anywhere without hearing someone talk about it or see someone like wear one of the T-shirts. Like I've even seen people like wear like
The cloaks,
yeah,
the
Oh, yes.
backpacks.
Yeah.
Being in freshman year of high school when season 1 came out, just seeing people wearing backpacks, and I constantly heard people listening to the first opening theme all the time.
Oh yeah, no, as someone who's in middle school, like I think 8th grade when Attack on Titan first dropped, it was everywhere. It like all my friends watched it, everybody had some kind of merch with it, so it was kind of one of those things where if you didn't watch it, you were out of the loop.
Oh yeah, and I will go ahead and admit that in middle school I did have a Scout Regiment jacket. I don't have it anymore because it doesn't fit me anymore.
Alrighty, and now we have some spin-offs and side stories. This is something that I'm not super familiar with because I'm more just the main series, but these are original stories not created by Isayama, but they remain canon to the manga. The Choice with No Regrets is a visual novel by Gunsnark and is animated by Hikaru Suruga. It is a prequel story where Levi joins the Scout Regiment. And then there's also Lost Girls, a novel by Hiroshi Seko, and the manga is by Yusuke Fuji. There's an anthology series focused on Mikasa and Annie. Both of these have been adapted into OVAs for the anime.
Oh yeah, and the reason why we're going over spin-offs now as opposed to later is that there was a pretty big gap between seasons 1 and 2, which gave a lot of time for more Attack on Titan media to come up, such as these. Just note that we're not going to go over every spin-off, just the more notable ones. But I'll go more into the big gap between seasons 1 and 2 in a bit. All right, here we go. I've been waiting to talk about these. I'm surprised people are clapping. Wow. All right, so Attack on Titan does have its own tokusatsu adaptation. Interestingly enough, these were in pre-production before the anime back in 2011, whereas the anime started pre-production in 2012. It was meant to be released before the anime in 2013. However, its original director, Tetsuya Nakashima, stepped out of production over creative differences, and Toho was still looking for a director to find, but no one would accept it because they felt that Attack on Titan would have been impossible to adapt. But it wasn't until Shinji Higuchi came up and said, "Hey, I'll do it."
The goat that he is.
Yeah, oh yeah.
If anybody could do it, it's Shinji Higuchi.
Oh yeah, Shin Ultraman is doing amazing right now.
Yes.
and eventually, this project eventually released in 2015. It consists of 2 movies from Toho. I mean, what better studio to do a giant monster epic than Toho? And again, they were directed by Shinji Higuchi, and there was also a 3-episode miniseries from ETV. Now, this little project does heavily take liberties with the source material. However, it was made at Isayama's request. You can see in interviews that Shintaro Kawakubo, who's Isayama's editor for the manga, he has actually discussed that some of the changes that him and Isayama have made, such as the creation of Shikishima, and honestly, it's probably the best way to get into the franchise if you're not so familiar with it. If you just want a quick 3-hour rundown of what Attack on Titan is about, the movies are a pretty good route to go.
I was gonna say, yeah, I remember when people were initially complaining, oh, Armin has black hair instead of blonde hair, and all the semantics and stuff, when they're actually quite good movies, just as a whole, and Davis was saying, it's really easy to just get into them, because they don't really spoil the anime series all that much, but it's a good little appetizer for what to expect from the show.
Oh yeah, plus I mean, despite their differences, they do stay true to plenty of their core elements.
Exactly. You could even call it a Shin Attack on Titan because it feels like a spiritual successor to Chapter 0.
I was gonna say, reading what Chapter 0 was about earlier, I realized I think the movie takes a lot from Chapter 0.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Alright. And going off more of that, the films stars big name performances such as Haruma Mira, rest in peace, Kiko Mizuhara, Kanata Hongo, Hiroki Hasegawa, Satomi Ishihara, Jun Kurimura. You may notice that a lot of these actors do appear in other Toho works like Shin Godzilla. Hasegawa, who plays Shikishima, was Rano Yaguchi in that film. Pierre Taki and Satoru Matsuo was also in Shin Godzilla, and y'all may remember Satomi Ishihara, who plays Hanji in the films, as Kyoko and Patterson in Shin Godzilla. The films feature special effects by Katsuro Inoue, who worked on Shin Godzilla, as well as Yoshihiro Nishimura from Tokyo Gore Police, and Kiyotaka Taguchi, who's worked on plenty of the modern Ultraman shows. Ultraman Z, Orb, Vegeta, almost all the new gen Ultra shows. It also features a pretty awesome soundtrack by Shigeru Sugiusu of Ada Galleon, Berserk, Shin Godzilla, even Shin Ultraman, and interestingly enough, these films do have a pretty big following in Japan. As every year they do get revival screenings.
That's awesome, yeah. That'd be cool to see in theaters, because I missed that sadly.
Yeah.
When I came over here.
Definitely one of the reasons I want to go to Japan.
Exactly.
Is to see Attack on Titan again on the big screen. But if you're curious and not convinced, we'll show a little snippet.
Actually, is this the last Was this the last theatrical Suitmation production that Toho did?
If you think about it, well,
because I know they had the puppet for Shin Godzilla, but that didn't wind up getting used in the actual film.
it might be, but the Attack on Titan movies are very well likely the last big tokusatsu productions of that type of scale.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was wondering about, because I was thinking about it, I was that's one of the last ones, I think, so.
Yeah, which, I mean, I thought I saw a couple of Blu-rays for both movies in the viewer's room.
Hint, hint.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor, pick it up.
Oh yeah, great stuff.
Anyways, moving on from that, unless you guys have any final thoughts.
I think that's it, so.
Alright, yeah.
Moving on, before we finally get back into the main story, let's talk about a few other notable spin-offs. First of all, we have Before the Fall, which was a light novel series by Ryo Suzukaze and a manga by Satoshi Shiki. It's a prequel that actually takes place several decades before the events of the manga and shows many events such as the creation of the famous wire-flinging ODM gear. However, due to various inconsistencies with the manga, it is not considered canon. And on the more interesting side, we have Attack on Titan Junior High. Which is a parody manga by Saki Nakagawa, which is about chibi versions of the characters from the manga attending Titan Junior High. It actually received its own anime adaptation in 2015, and even a sequel called Attack on Titan High School in 2018.
And then next up we have, finally, Season 2. This is where the Titans, now led by the ape-like Beast Titan, appear within the second wall as the Colossal Armored Titan reappear to try to retrieve and kidnap Eren. It was released a long while after Season 1 for budgetary reasons.
Yeah, in fact, going back to Season 1 for a bit, they were basically animating that as they were airing it, which if you look at the original broadcast footage for some of the episodes in Season 1, the animation was not pretty. Thankfully, that got fixed for the Blu-ray release, which is now very accessible now, so
yes,
that's good.
I was going to say, I can only imagine how rough it would have been for them, because I know a lot of animators, especially in Japan, are overworked and work really long hours, so props to them for managing to get it out regardless.
Yeah, and it's also worth noting that Attack on Titan is a very ambitious series.
Yes, oh my goodness.
There's so many like moving parts and how like the action is depicted and whatnot.
But yeah, like the other seasons, this contains plenty of highlights that greatly enhance and drive the story, which we're about to see.
And in case the mixed martial arts influence isn't obvious enough. And he's going for the arm bar.
That was an intense armbar.
Yeah, I don't think they typically can tear their arms off, but
Is it still an armbar if he doesn't have an arm?
that's a good question, yeah.
Yeah.
We used the arm as a bar.
Yeah.
Alright, so now we go on to Season 3, which aired from 2018 to 2019 because it was split into two parts due to an emergency break that occurred halfway through production. It starts off with a government conspiracy that unfolds involving a royal family who eventually kidnaps Eren, and later on the Scouts return to the first wall to seal it, where they battle the Beast, Armored, and Colossal Titans. And Season 3 Part 2 easily has some of like the best scenes in the entire series has to offer. I mean the fight with the Armored Titan round 2. I mean that's a great one. The Colossal Titan just just basically becoming a nuke. Like that was intense.
The battle with the 120-meter Titan.
Yeah, which was actually storyboarded by Shinji Higuchi. Fun fact.
That's right.
Yeah, and one scene that's always gonna stick with me, and for those who have seen Season 3 will know, is Erwin's speech before him and the Scout Regiment charge into battle against the Beast Titan and his army of Titans. Like, I make sure to listen to that speech at least once a month. It's just amazing.
I was gonna say, as someone who caught up on the series fairly recently, that was one of the big moments of Season 3 for me, was just that entire speech, and then the charge was absolutely insane.
Oh yeah. And what follows at the end is a pretty shocking revelation that changes the story for the much better. It's like after this revelation, which we'll go into a bit, it's like seasons 1 through 3, they were just playing the cards down.
It was just a setup.
Now they're all coming together for the final season.
That's right. The final season is just easily some of the best television I've honestly ever seen in my life.
I agree.
Yeah. But yeah, season 4, the final season, it was separated into 3 parts. The first of which began airing in late 2019.
2020.
2020. Okay. And the second part started airing in late 2021, and we will be receiving the third and final part in 2023 at some point. So, it leads on from the big discovery at the end of season 3, which was that mankind actually still exists outside the walls. And so the scout regiment travels to the nation of Marley, who have enslaved the people of the walls, known as the Eldians of Paradise Island, for centuries. Now, while this war is being declared between the two sides, Eren is stuck in the middle and decides to trigger this event called the Rumbling, which involves him leading a horde of Titans out to destroy the majority of the human race. That is, all life outside of the walls.
He's gone full Anakin Skywalker.
And because of this, the people of Marley and Paradise ultimately put aside their differences to join forces to stop Eren.
Like these guys were saying before, I think this is some of like the best writing I've seen in TV. The way that they're able to portray kind of the shades of gray on both sides without there really being like a black and white, good and bad, is really, really awesome.
Oh yeah, and I think that's what makes it so interesting, because you totally understand the motivations of every character to the point where it's like it's almost hard to root for anyone at that point because everyone has like done something. You know?
Everyone has done something
Everyone has done
awful,
something bad.
but at the same time, it's like
or
you
they're
understand.
part of something awful.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's a question of whether or not they can truly be redeemed.
Like I said, the shades of gray, it's just impeccable writing. And then finally, an overview of some of the themes. The first one being revenge. Eren seeks vengeance upon the Titans for killing his mother and supposedly driving humanity towards extinction, which ultimately kind of comes to a T when he decides to commit genocide on the rest of the world. It's like,
much.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I know a lot of people critiqued Attack on Titan in its early days by saying that, oh, Eren's a cliche character because of the whole revenge thing. And even at that point, Isayama considered it cliche. It was a very shonen character archetype. But by the events of season 4, he brings it right back around into something that's incredible.
I was gonna say, it's like, just to show how far it's come, to the fact that Eren started off, oh, I just want to kill all the Titans, and now, oh, I'm going to kill everybody else in the world, is just huge character development. And then the next one, I think is great life advice for anyone, is overcoming adversity. If you don't fight, you can't win. If you don't try to do anything, you're not gonna get anywhere in life. So I think this is something that everybody should kind of live by.
Right.
And then finally, the last theme is unity. Characters place their faith on others regardless of whether or not they succeed, as mankind is stronger together as opposed to being divided.
Exactly. We see so often in the series that characters who normally hate each other putting aside their differences to fight a common enemy.
And now, Attack on Titan has had a huge impact on media as a whole. So we're just going to go over very few examples. Recently, film director Alex Garland was partially inspired by the series for his 2022 film Men. And there's a quote there saying, "I was watching Attack on Titan going, God, this is so good. I really need to get my act together." I mean, honestly, I can relate. I'm 22, I've seen the series, I've read the series, I'm still trying to get my act together. And more famously, Mobile Suit Gundam creator Yoshiyuki Tomino even called the series too gratuitous, going as far as to compare Isayama's depiction of violence in the series to that of pornography, saying, you know, it was just unneeded. Now, I just want to say, when Yoshiyuki Tomino, that is Yoshiyuki Kill 'Em All Tomino, creator of not only the biggest mecha franchise of all time, but is also the creator of Space Runaway Ideon, when that man calls your series too gratuitous, you're doing something right. And it's also worth noting that there actually is a new live-action adaptation of Attack on Titan in the works at Warner Brothers that is to be helmed by director Andy Muschietti of the It films and the upcoming Flash movie. Knowing what's going on with the Flash, I don't see the future of this project being pretty. And it's also being produced by David Heyman of the Harry Potter films, as well as Masioka of the Heroes TV series. The others may know him as one of the producers for the Netflix Death Note film, so take whatever you will with that.
If anything, I hope it just means that it's going to be funny bad.
Yeah, it's funny bad, I can live with that.
And this is something we can all just like pitch into.
Yeah, no, the message is freedom, standing up to those who oppress you,
Following your dreams.
The best piece of life advice that I'll given that I can probably give to others is to forge your own path. I mean, with these past 2 years, not only there being no G-FEST, but with everything that's been going on, with the world, there's a lot of hatred and anger going on. There's a lot of blaming things, if you will. I think what really makes Attack on Titan stick with not just me, but a lot of people for so many years, is that it is a series that asks you, what are you going to do about it? Attack on Titan is a series that encourages people to pretty much overcome their boundaries, overcome the standards that society places around you, to break free of those chains, establishing who you are as an individual, becoming your own person, and doing whatever you can to leave your mark on the world and leave a difference.
Yeah, no, I think the message here, just as David said, this is probably some of the best life advice that I've ever gotten, and I think that the message in Attack on Titan is relatable to pretty much anybody. The writing here is very deep, and sure, it's a very kind of out there, wacky idea of like Titans coming to attack humans and all this huge, massive world building, but at the end of the day, when you boil it down to its core, it's something that I think everybody can appreciate.
Absolutely. Like, going back to what was mentioned earlier about Isayama himself being like angry and frustrated, I think everyone has had their own phase where they thought the world was against them. And Attack on Titan really inspired me to obviously learn to stand up to those who were like talking down to me, putting me down, and it was a really important facet of helping me grow as a person. And honestly, just watching the characters grow alongside myself as I got older was a really, really big inspiration for me, and really helped me to grow.
Before we close it off here, interestingly enough, as we were getting ready to put together this panel and whatnot, they dropped a new poster.
They stole our art. They stole the composition. God! We shouldn't have posted the art online. We should have just had it up at the convention.
We gave them ideas.
Yeah, no, they saw our post, and then like a day later, they were like, "Yeah, no, just schedule that out, please. Schedule that out."
Yeah. Here's a taste for what's to come at the conclusion of Attack on Titan as Season 4 Part 3 airs next year in 2023.
And to think that people said that it wasn't a kaiju anime before. Now there's a giant skeleton coming to destroy the human race.
That is literally a final boss in Ultraman.
It is. It's a final boss in Ultraman.
And with all that said, thank you all so much. Really appreciate it.
Hey,
Hey, so because the guy that's making the Flash made this Attack on Titan show, are we going to see Aaron fight all of Hawaii?